Good evening. Yesterday at around 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, a fire erupted in the Pacific Palisades, which so far has devastated in excess of 15,000 acres of woodland, cost no fewer than 5 lives, cost thousands of homes to be burned, tens of thousands. I think the last estimate I heard is 40,000 homes. I'm not sure if that is in the Pacific Palisades region alone, as a second fire erupted in the area referred to as Eaton, or it's being called the Eaton Fire. And that, unfortunately, was just the start, as fires are now starting to prop up all over LA, making people wonder how exactly these new fires are starting in completely separate areas at the same time. Is it natural? Is it man-made? I don't know that anybody knows or can say for certain, or that we'll ever know for certain. And I don't think at the end of the day it really matters. This is clearly a tragedy which is unfolding in real time before our eyes. And the senseless waste and destruction that I really felt it's incumbent upon me to try and just help keep you all informed, those who are in the Southern California region. I'm going to first and foremost urge you to ensure that you and your loved ones, or if that you're doing everything to evacuate any potentially dangerous areas, and in the most serious tones possible, I urge you to follow the direction of your local authorities so that nobody's unnecessarily exposed to greater risk than they should be from this indescribable tragedy. And when reports started coming out, is at least 4 fires. I see sometimes 5 fires. It gets a little confusing. Because the reports that are coming in are it's like, I don't know if I'm hearing something that's from 3 hours ago, from 7 hours ago, and there's just new fires, and the fires have different names. So I'm going to do my best to try and at least make sense of this story as it's unfolding. So I made reference to the first 2 fires which is referred to as the Pacific Palisades, and also the one in Eaton. This was the announcement of the 3rd fire. This over here, and I'll tell you what I plan on doing to help perhaps provide you with additional coverage that you can't just find elsewhere. I'm in an X chat for people who break news, so I plan on basically peeking in there with you about different updates and reports that have come along, and hopefully that'll help us get a better grip on everything. This is a report that I found which was talking about the 3rd fire erupting.
Unfortunately, we've been talking about the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. That's not all that's going on in Southern California right now. We are learning of another fire that has broken out in the Sylmar area. It started about 10 minutes after 10 o'clock, just north of the 210 freeway near the 514 split at Roxford. Immediate evacuations are being ordered, and that fire is now about 100 acres and growing. The 5 freeway has been completely shut down.
And not far from that, a 4th fire, now we understand, has broken out in the Sun Valley area, again along the 5 freeway.
The Sylmar and then the Sun Valley, that's a different fire. That's a 4th fire.
This time near Lancashire. The 5 is being shut down, as Court just mentioned. Firefighters trying to put out the flames, but of course with the winds blowing, it's almost a futile attempt to try it at this point. The fire is being called the Tamarack Fire, and we think this one may have begun as a vehicle fire that then quickly spread to structures and then the brush. Firefighters having a tough time at all 4 of these locations tonight. Let's bring Vera in.
Horrible. So they're referring to that, the Tamarack fire, as the 4th fire. Then I had heard this report, which is but they're calling the fourth fire.
Mark, you have been looking at all of the maps and the information, the numbers, and the air support. What are you learning right now?
Well, unfortunately, I have to report we are now dealing with a fourth fire. This is absolutely the last thing that we wanted to see during this major windstorm. The fact that 3 major brush fires are tying up so many fire agencies, they now have to deal with a fourth. It's called the Woodley Fire. It's burning in the Sepulveda Dam Recreation Center in the heart of the San Fernando Valley, right where the 101 and the 405 meet. I'm going to show you on my map. CAL FIRE, our state firefighting agency, already has an icon for it. It's right here, approximately 75 acres, reported just about 40 minutes ago. This is an area that is going to be a very difficult firefight. Basically, it is the Sepulveda Dam wildlife area. It's all vegetation right here. We don't have any fire footprint yet, and we don't know how many structures are threatened or not, but anyone on the 405 or the 101 is going to be able to see this fire. There is an incident update on the CAL FIRE website. It says the fire has grown approximately to 75 acres and is being driven by strong south winds. Incident Command reports that it poses a threat of crossing Burbank Boulevard. Crews are actively working to contain the fire and protect structures in the affected area. Now, coming back out to where Burbank Boulevard is, let me show you on the map of what they are concerned about for this new fire. This is Burbank Boulevard as it passes here through. So we know that there is a threat that this fire is going to move down south through here and affect the area of Encino near the 101 and the 405. So they are actively working to fight that fire. Now, I did see on the Citizen app, there is a short clip here of what the fire looked like right when it broke out. You can see that's what the Sepulveda Dam recreation area kind of looks like. It's very dark. There's a lot of brush there. This is probably from someone who was either on Burbank Boulevard or at the 405. So the wind really causing a problem for firefighters. And I want to say the other thing that the wind is causing is power outages. We are dealing with a massive number of power outages right now. Southern California Edison says they've had to turn the power off to 83,000 customers due to the
I didn't even think about the whole power outage thing. That's obviously a ramification that's going to come from fires. This is horrible. I was ready for a joke at the end of the show. You know, I actually had a funny meme that I thought about starting the show with. I was like, I don't know. Maybe not tonight. So you want to see if I laugh? Who is Joe and why is he smoking nicotine cigarettes in the woods of the Angel? Canyon winds, it's fire. I just wonder why these fires seem to be happening miles apart without natural phenomenon like lightning. This is a good question. This is a good question. It could be, if you want to, okay, if you want, you can have completely opposite perspectives on this. You could say, look, this has to be man-made. I had a thing, Benny Johnson, hours ago when they announced the third fire erupting, that this has to be man-made. Different people, like you're pointing out, Pam, that fires starting miles apart. That why would that be? Like you wouldn't expect a fire to just all of a sudden just erupt 10 miles away from a different place. So why would that possibly happen? So that's one theory, is that that's why I said, as far as is it man-made or is it organic? The other theory would be, you know, if the Santa Ana winds, which are what come around this time of year, if those winds, you know, are uniquely strong this year for one reason or another, and you have conditions ripe for the spread of a wildfire in one part of the city, it's going to be ripe in another part of the city. So I guess it's, you know, been dry for a while, so that what would normally be a fire, which would be relatively contained and nothing, but now even a small fire just becomes something considerably larger because of the environmental conditions, being the Santa Ana winds, and as well as the brush, the environment being naturally suited and conducive towards fire spread. I guess a third reason you could think of, as far as it being, or to try to say that this could be organic, is perhaps a regular fire which breaks out now, doesn't get the same attention because the fire department has been spread so thin in trying to fight the first couple of fires. So it could, if you want to argue and you want to give the benefit of the doubt to humanity and say these are all organic, those are the arguments you would make to explain why you would have fires miles apart from each other that would start. But certainly by nature, we're going to be cynical and say, I got a feeling that someone's doing this. And it doesn't even have to be someone. It doesn't have to be, here's the intermediate. I gave you both extremes. I gave you the totally organic extreme. I gave you the whole conspiracy theory perspective. I'll give you the middle road argument, which is all you need is, a couple of kids who just think it's funny that like all these fires go on. Oh, let's start our own fire here. And it doesn't have to be kids, but someone with a childlike mentality. It could be an adult who's got like a childlike mentality, who's like, oh, that they basically, want to have attention in their zone, or, be the ones to be responsible for the Tamarack fire or whatever. That they're sort of, messed up kids or messed up adult individuals who are taking advantage of this scenario to create their own drama, which is not really conspiracy. That's, a bunch of leftists trying to show how terrible climate change is, but it could just be the man-made, but organic man-made, because you're always going to have a few idiots in every group. You're going to have a few idiots, and LA has more than its share. So you're going to have a few idiots who are basically going to take advantage of a situation to try and, do their part to make it worse. So it really, that's why I said, I don't think we're ever going to know. I don't think we're ever going to know. Right? I mean, who's going to find out? Still sticking with what denial? I don't know what that means. Was in LA to see supply yesterday. Even before I saw smoke, LA is dystopian. Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces driving by homeless people, pushing shopping carts, and people living in cars and RVs. Yeah, it's a mess. Make California concrete jungle solved. Yeah. Sadly, it seems like that's God's plan. First and foremost, I hope no other people are injured, because people are putting their lives online trying to fight these things. And some people, especially the elderly or people of other infirmities, are very, unfortunately, they're in a position where, God forbid, this could be life destroying. Not to mention the thousands of homes being destroyed. I mean, the upset and turmoil that it causes, and you lose everything. If you think about what you have in your home, and imagine just snap, all of that's gone. You invest your life in that, and then it's up in flames. Like, even if you have insurance, which there's all sorts of talk about how that we'll see that actor James Woods, who's a very right-leaning guy. In case if you don't follow him on social media, if you're on social media, you probably know already that James Woods is staunchly MAGA. He's a very strong MAGA perspective. But when hearing him talk, and I have clips of him talking, it sort of brings home what this tragedy is. That it's like, there's the loss of life, but this, there's what you put into your home. I mean, it's just that's irreplaceable. So most people starting fire, power lines above ground that blow over and start fires. Eco-terrorists, pretty common. That's what I'm saying. It could be eco-terrorists who have an agenda, or it could be loonies who are just loonies. Or it could be completely organic, where something tips over and now it's catching fire because the conditions are ripe for that in California. There's no way to know. How much is all that real estate worth? Remember Hawaii? Yeah, can't even imagine how many billions of dollars it's worth. Not too concerned right now about how or why. Let's all pray for those affected. This is just sad. It is sad. But what I'm going to be focusing on a little bit here is how senseless this is, that it never should have happened. This should not have happened. And we're going to see lots of reasons that this spread of the wildfire was so utterly preventable to have been a tiny fraction of the damage that is destroying Southern California right now. Like a tiny fraction, which is now this conflagration, which is just no end in sight. No end in sight. How do we explain this, Joe? Is the Democratic Party just incompetent or malevolent? I think it depends on which persons you're talking about in the Democratic Party. I think there's a lot of both. There's a lot of both. We tend to associate with the elites that it's malevolence and with the followers that it's incompetence. But I think that's too simplistic a perspective on it. I think that some of the elites are just genuinely incompetent and some of the lessers are malevolent. But it's a good question. Thankfully, insurance companies can fix fires. See James Wood, at least the people who are retired and suddenly uninsured will be destitute too. Yeah. In LA, armed security guards in almost every retail establishment of any size. I don't see that even in Detroit. Roads as bad or worse as Michigan. It's a war zone. I mean, not every part of it, but too many parts of it. God forgive the small part of me that has less sympathy for neighborhoods of the rich and the famous. I understand where you're coming from, Sherry. I understand where you're coming from. You know, I'm not going to kid you. Like, a part of me was just like, you know, this is like, you know, Rome is burning. Rome is burning. But I try to fight that part because I sort of feel like, you know, you sort of feel like the, you know, think about like the decadence of Rome just going, you know, like, you know, and we tend to, it's too easy to sort of take like a religious perspective of like, you know, this is God dropping his wrath. I think that we jade our hearts if we take that perspective. And then I understand that intuition. Like I said, I fight that myself. But the reason I'm fighting it is because I'm recognizing that I'm hardening my own heart when I do that, as opposed to, you know, everything that happens is ultimately God's will, especially when you're talking about a natural disaster. So, but that doesn't mean we should be like, feel like good about it, that was necessary. If you understand what I'm saying. True and agreed. Gavin Newsom tore down 4 dams for salmon. Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there, Kim. We're going to get there, Kimmy. We are going to get there. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. I did miss over here. Rant. There's a couple of rants. Bill Dozer is saying, call off the lasers, Joe. It's not me. I give you my word. I didn't do anything. I did not start those fires. Spare the women and children from the space entropy nomad. You guys are funny. You guys make me laugh. You make me laugh. I'll probably share, before the night's out, I'll probably share with you that funny meme that I didn't start the show with just because I felt like it was the wrong tenor. But you want to understand just how terrible this situation is. I mean, this is just, it's crazy. It's crazy. Listen to this. Listen to this was this morning. This is this morning before a couple of these fires erupted. Listen to this. This is Cooper Anderson Cooper, whatever his name is. You know who it is. In LA.
Off this entire area. But there's just too many fires.
Back then they were saying 5 raging wildfires. That was this morning. And then I hear about this afternoon about new fires erupting. So that's what, and they're saying now there's 4 fires. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I struggle to even know how many fires there are. I saw this headline 14 hours ago. 5 raging wildfires in LA County, 4 with 0% containment. And then I see 4. I don't know what's happening. Is one of them contained? Is that what happened? Because now I'm getting reports of 5 3 hours ago, there's a fourth fire. I'm like, wait, wouldn't this be like number 6 we're up to now? I can't even keep track. But I'm trying to help educate you. So this is why I'm bringing it to you, and I'm going to give you that behind the scenes look that I have, and maybe together we'll figure it out. I don't know.
Fires, and they've just got it's triage. We come upon Captain Chris Dinelli of the LA Fire Department. He crew have been out more than 24 hours. How's water? I mean, obviously Palisades have had water issues.
Our hydrant ran dry about 2 minutes ago.
Hydrant ran dry. Hydrant ran dry. This is what he's reporting this morning. I don't think this is one hydrant. I don't know what that means. I don't think that's just one hydrant.
And is that the water pressure issue, or how?
We are, because there's so many engines tapping the grid and multiple grids, we're basically just taking all the water out of the grid.
So what do you do? I mean, you want to fight at these fires.
We do have water tenders, vehicles that shuttle water to us that carry 2,500 gallons of water, but again, they're stretched thin as well, so they have a lot of demand placed on them.
So on a scene like this right now, what can you do?
We are looking at houses that we can save. So things that we can do, we can clear brush away from fences, things that we can do with our hands or with tools. And we just help some homeowners get out. So first thing is rescue operations. We want you out. Houses can be replaced, all that, lives cannot.
That's true. Horrible. Horrible. Look at this. You know, maybe this guy's rich. I don't know. But when I'm struggling to find sympathy, you see something like this, it's very easy.
I'm going to break down again. That's what I feel. It's my whole life. 5 minutes ago, I was sitting in the car by myself, and tears just came over my face. So, my entire history is in the house. I'm okay. I'll be okay. I'm tough, and we'll start over. Even though I'm 91 years old, I'll start over again.
91 years old, saying he'll start over again. So what are they doing meanwhile in Santa Monica? What are they doing I couldn't believe this when I saw this. I'm like, you guys have to be kidding me. Leftists be leftists. Giving parking tickets. You can see the smoke and the fire in the background. They're giving parking tickets to folks for the street sweepers. So that's what we need to worry about right now, the street sweepers. More on the state of the fires. We talk about containment.
I'd like to give you a current sit stat on our Eaton fire. We can confirm that the Eaton fire is now over 10,600 acres at 0% containment. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't
0%.
highlight some of the heroic...
Just understand what he said there. 0% containment. We've lost 10,000 acres and we have 0% containment. It's raging and we can do nothing about it. Nothing. We're helpless.
Now over 10,600 acres at 0% containment. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't highlight some of the heroic actions last night by your public safety, police, and fire, who literally saved lives, pulling people out from burning buildings, getting them out of streets and vehicles where they had no ways to evacuate. Our death count today would be significantly higher without their heroic actions.
They are heroes.
We currently have 60 strike teams requested and 750 firefighters working on this incident. We're in a unified command with multiple agencies to include working on 60 strike teams requested and 750 firefighters working on this incident.
750 firefighters. It really doesn't seem like enough.
We're in a unified command with multiple agencies to include law, LA County Fire, LA County Sheriff, and Angeles National Forest, along with Pasadena Fire. We have strike teams committed from all over the state and as far as Arizona coming to assist us. Multiple structures have been damaged or destroyed as this wind-driven fire had wind gusts of 70 plus miles per hour.
70
we had spotting
miles an hour
of embers 2 to 3 miles ahead of the fire.
Wow.
I can
Embers 2 to 3 miles from the fire. I saw one report which was saying it was, you know how fast this thing was going? We'll come back to this report in a moment. You know how fast this thing was going? Nick Sorter, I saw reporting out there that it was traveling the distance of 2 football fields a minute. 2 football fields a minute. I mean, think about that. 200 yards a minute. That is crazy.
confirm tonight that we have somewhere between 200 and 500 structures damaged or lost. We really need, as it becomes safe to do so, and we get a better handle on this fire, we're going to be able to, we need to come in and be able to survey the damage to get an exact total of number of structures that have been damaged or completely lost. We continue to be in red flag conditions, and we expect that to be through Thursday with variable and high wind speeds. Thankfully, not as strong as what we saw last night. We are encouraging people to stay updated as the weather can continue to change very rapidly. Please, if we issue an evacuation order, heed our request.
Indeed.
Be prepared, have your go bag, and immediately evacuate. Thankfully, the current forecasts allow us today to start getting aircraft in to fight this fire. Since around 10 a.m., we've had aircraft doing water drops. With the goal of limiting the fire spread, we will come behind those water drops with hand crews and fire engines to get a containment line around this fire. We expect, with favorable conditions over the next couple days, to start making good progress on this fire. And with that, I'll turn it over to the police chief.
So there you go. I'm going to jump over to the news site that I have and look through with you. Here, we'll go through them one by one together. This is starting yesterday. So, this was in Palisades Park yesterday. Sorry, Pacific Palisades. That was the first thing. That was the first thing that it was report that they shared there. This is where I get this is where one of my primary sources for news. I come here and they're phenomenal with updating me. This was a little later. Video of the fire. This was the fight. Yes, this again was yesterday. What is this one? Just look at it. Look at these fires being reported everywhere. I have no idea. It's craziness. Diligent Denizens been great about updating. Multiple blazes sprung up over the course of the last 24 hours. Palisades Fire and Eaton Fire both are over 2,000 acres in size now. Hearst Fire has reached 500 acres. With many small fires still burning in surrounding areas. Let's check this.
Good morning. Unfortunately, the Palisades Fire in California has burned uncontrolled throughout the night.
This is this morning.
Estimates still showing it at 2,921 acres burning. On top of that, other offshoot fires have begun over the course of the night because of the winds. We have the Woodley fire, which has
this is something we hadn't actually discussed, which is possible in theory. Because I think that it was Pam who asked a great question here about whether fires starting miles apart. They say that embers are traveling miles, so in theory, it really could just be one fire that catches a particularly dry area. You get some embers in the wrong area, and it could be the same fire. It just ends up spreading a couple miles away. So that is a possible explanation here that Denizen is Diligent is pointing out.
From nothing up to 75 acres throughout the night. The Hearst fire north of there is 500 acres still burning. And then east, we have the Eaton fire, which is now gone up from what originally was 5 acres and then 200 acres and then 400 acres, has now reached nearly the same size as the Palisades fire at 2,227 acres. These fires are still raging, still burning, uncontrolled. We have the olive fire that's just at 3 acres around there. All of these areas in the darker red are ordered to be evacuated. These are not warnings. These are orders. You are under a lawful order to evacuate immediately. If you do not evacuate and rescuers have to come get you out, those are resources that could be spent saving other people's lives. I will update as I can.
So there you go. That's from Diligent Denizen. We got a lot more here, though, as you can see. That was this morning. Then the Palisades fire had grown to 5,000 acres. And he's providing more footage here. Look at it. I don't know how anyone drives along this. There's like fire on both sides of them. Some of these things that I see people driving. I'm like, what are you doing? Why would you be driving? It's crazy. You can't even appreciate how big some of these houses are until you get to look at this over here. When you get to like the 10 set, look at that up all the way up here. Look at this. This is a mansion which is on fire. It's got to be, right? I mean, that's a room it's like looks like 4 stories high. At least three. It looks like it's probably 4. This is the Malibu. I think this is the Malibu region. So Trump came out with scathing remarks saying Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I'll demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is the blame for this. On top of it all, no water for fire hydrants, not firefighting planes, a true disaster. That was reported out between like 11 and noon today. Then you have President Biden will receive a briefing from California officials. He came in and got his briefing for all the good that did. I'm sure a lot of people were cheering that he came in. The Eaton fire is now 10,600 acres. That's just the Eaton fire. 10,600 acres per Angeles National Forestry. That was as of 1:22 p.m. Here's Palisades resident saying he never got notice of evacuation.
Got the evacuation notice. Even at 5 o'clock, and all you see is this raining hellfire.
When did you get the notification for an evacuation?
We never did. Over here, never got the evacuation notice. Even when we got here, it was not there.
Well, that's an investigation right there.
And have you seen any fire crews here? I see an engine company down there.
Yeah, we see them going up and down the street, but not helping us.
Right. Well, There simply
I mean,
aren't enough around.
just think about that. Your house on fire. It's like, no, we can't help you. Can't help you.
Listen, your name is
James.
last name is
Day.
D-A-Y.
D-A-Y.
Good luck to you, James.
Thank
Thank you.
So there you go. God help James Day. There's large chunks of ash.
The where we're looking here directly to the south, right next to the Aldi is Elliott Arts Magnet Middle School, which also caught fire earlier this morning. And now we're seeing it across the street at the grocery store.
I'm sure no students were there at the time, but it's just the building.
We're seeing some folks here that are making their way up on Lake Avenue right here, but this is a busy thoroughfare. You can see the big flames, but also look at the sky and the black smoke, Tommy, if we can pan up, and you can see some of these embers that are coming down here. And when I talked where we're looking here direct.
It's raining ash. So that was at 5:15 local time, 2:15 Pacific. Then you have the Los Angeles Fire Department orders immediate urgent from breaking 4 news. LAFD orders immediate urgent evacuation of homes and businesses north of Hollywood Boulevard as new brush fire burns just west of the Hollywood sign. There you go. 10 acres burned near Runyon Canyon. That was at 9:12 p.m. Eastern, 6:12 Pacific. And yeah, go report on the ground. Do it. Oh yeah. Do it, Diligent. So that's what I all day long. That's all I've been getting is just this fire. That's all anyone's talking about. You know, we saw that Trump made that comment as far as what he offered California. And in case people think he's making it up, no, it's been caught on camera.
And you've seen what happened. You've talked about the forest fires. Now we're permitting and cleaning up these forests so it will reduce the threat of forest fire as well as creating jobs in these communities.
We're all to do that in California, by the way.
Yes, sir.
California's a mess. We're giving billions.
This was during his first term.
Billions and billions of dollars for forest fires in California. There's no reason for those fires to be like they are. They're leaving them dirty. It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there rotting and dry. And instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them. And we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for to fix. And the destruction is incredible. So I think California ought to get their act together and clean up their forests and manage their forests because it's disgraceful. What's happening should never happen. I go all over the country and I meet with governors. The first thing they say is there's no reason for forest fires like that in California. So I say to the governor or whoever's going to be the governor of California, you better get your act together because California, we're just not going to continue to pay the kind of money that we're paying because of fires that should never be to the extent. They were telling me in a couple of states, I won't even mention their name, it's like a flash. Some grass will burn. It'll be over in minutes. They'll lose 2 acres, 3 acres. At the most, they won't even lose that. And here we are with thousands of acres and billions of dollars every year. It's the same thing every year.
Countless lives.
And they don't want to clean up their forests because they have environmental problems in cleaning it up. It should be the opposite because you're going to lose your forests. You're losing them. But it's costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars because of incompetence in California. So the people, I'm speaking now for the people of California, they don't want to see this happen. They're getting destroyed. And it's hurting our budgets. It's hurting our country. And they just better get their act together. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The state of California, your administration just entered into a first type commitment over the next 20 years to double our vegetation management and forest management. Right. I want to thank you for supporting that effort.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. He's trying to double their vegetation to try and help California out. Gavin Newsom always complaining about Trump. Oh, look at this.
Funding that effort. We acknowledge our role and responsibility to do more in that space. The partnership was significant. It was first.
Whenever people say in that space, that means that There's something weird about folks who say in that space. That's what I've noticed. I don't think I've ever used that term in my life. I can't imagine this setting where I would say in that space. It's a weird term. It's a weird term. Am I alone in thinking that in that space is the way they use it is such a weird thing? Let me catch up with some of these chats. Matt saying, when things go tragically wrong, there's many terrible decisions that come together at the same time, thrown by the nature and high winds. Yep. Maybe if everyone left California forever, that would fix it. Maybe. What are the odds Ukraine can send money or people to help? Seems doubtful. But they have plenty of fire departments. We funded like 16 different fire departments in Ukraine. They're all good. They're all set. They're all good to go. The Ukraine is all good. I got a clip on that too. I don't know what that means. The Vikings have a road playoff game in literal hell. Thanks, refs, for not calling the intentional grounding in the end zone of Detroit. Short cars in depth can have a nice, lengthy conversation with you about that. Fires create their own wind gusts due to the oxygen they inhale. Fires breathe. There was this movie in the 90s called Backdraft, which was really glorifying, like, I don't know, fire. It lives, it breathes. It's fire. We know what fire is. The systems from electrical water structures have redundancies, but if a home is at the downside of that system, there will be an impact like running out of water. Oh, so that was that report which we saw about them saying they had no more water. Joe, chats at the Ember was 15 minutes ago. I'm jumping. Did you see? Do you see? Look. I'm trying. If I missed something, I'm sorry. I'm trying. If you want to learn more on California fires, go to the Lookout channel. The brush in these areas are prone to fire. Thank you. Thanks to Joe. Is that thank you, Joe, or thanks to Joe? I'm not sure if he's talking about me or Biden. I assume he's saying thank you, Joe, though. Electric, if a plant is down, they draw from another plant. This might overwhelm the system and cause fires at other locations. Yeah, that's one of the theories I had. I saw an aerial shot off Pacific Palisades. All the houses were disinfected, but the shrubs lining the lots were still there. You could see every lot on the grid. Well, that sounds like a cool shot. I like. I went to Pepperdine. Lived in Southern California for 51 of my 63 years. Been through this many times. For 3 decades, the state has failed to enforce abatement. You certainly, I should have you sit in here because you certainly know more about the situation than I do. I'm not saying that facetiously either. I'm just an American trying to find out what the hell is going on. This fire started because crazies didn't want tiny fish to get hurt. Yet now all the toxins and poisonous crap that's feeding the very environment they want to protect. Typical lib thinking. Yep, and yep. Stupid thinking. Joe, the ash and smoke is blowing to the ocean. Even more destruction as a result. Yeah. Same as my truth, though. That's the space. In this space is my truth. They do seem like leftist terms. California changed environmental laws in the 70s to please environmentalists and should have built desalination plants years ago. Well, clearly. You got all that ocean front. Why wouldn't you have desalination plants? I don't know. Let's get back to this Trump, what I was telling you about Trump sharing his thoughts.
In California's history with the U.S. government, but we're going to need to do a lot more.
Yeah, well, I'm all for it.
Provide
that's something I feel so strongly about. You can knock this down to nothing. You go to Europe and different places in Europe, countries where they're forest countries, and they're very, very strong on management, and they don't have a problem. They really don't have, with, as they say, more explosive trees than we have in California. So thank you very much for your comments. But we're working on that very hard.
To see specifically done on the issue of forest management, and is it possible
that it's also forest management and climate change. It's both things.
Well,
at the
I think
same time.
something's possible. I think a lot of things are possible. But with regard to the forests, when trees fall down after a short period of time, about 18 months, they become very dry. They become really like a matchstick. And they get up, there's no more water pouring through. And they become very, very, they just explode. They can explode. Also, leaves. When you have years of leaves, dried leaves on the ground, it just sets it up. It's really a fuel for a fire. So they have to do something about it. They also have to do cuts. I mean, people don't like to do cuts, but they have to do cuts in between. So if you do have a fire and it gets away, you'll have a 50-yard cut in between. So it won't be able to catch to the other side. They don't do that. If you go to other countries, you go to Austria, you go to Finland, you go to many different countries, and they don't have fire. I was talking to a head of a major country, and he said, we're a forest nation. We consider ourselves a forest nation. This was in Europe. I said, that's a beautiful term. He said, we have trees that are far more explosive. He meant explosive in terms of fire. But we have trees that are far more explosive than they have in California, and we don't have any problem because we manage our forests. So we have to do that in California, too.
Interesting. It's very interesting. On a happier note, the largest power substation in Texas is also on fire. Fire breaks is what they're called. Yeah, when they make cuts between. Yeah, those are fire breaks. Here is Karen Bass, Mayor Karen Bass, getting assailed by a random journalist. Probably likely a citizen, what they call a citizen journalist. If you want to take notes on how to be a good citizen journalist, here you go. Mayor Karen Bass.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
$17
Have you nothing
million.
to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
Just waiting to get off a plane.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
To be fair, there's no way when she went, I don't know how many vacations she takes, but there's no way to know when someone goes on vacation that some sort of natural tragedy is going to erupt. So I think that question's a little unfair, but this woman deserves it.
Madam Mayor, let me ask you just again, have you anything to say to the citizens today as you return?
No. Hold on 1 second.
She's like, get me away from this guy.
Madam Mayor, just a few words for the citizens today as you return to deal with the catastrophe.
Can you take this down?
So there you go. There you go. Get her. Get her. Get her. Oh. Then she gave, after she landed, she gave her press report where she sounded utterly incompetent. Instead of providing a link like she's supposed to do, she said this.
Build stronger than ever. Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
Bill.
Unbelievable. Just go to URL. If you have any problems, just go to URL. Idiot. Incompetent. Go to URL. Just go to URL. This is incompetence breeds tragedy. That's the sad thing here. Incompetence breeds tragedy. Look at this.
$113 LA City firefighters have been suspended without pay for defying the city's vaccine mandate. In November, firefighters who had not submitted their vaccination status or requested an exemption were informed they would face suspension and termination. The policy requires city employees to be vaccinated by December 18th. The fire department says firefighters who continue to resist the mandate will be entered into the process of termination.
Now, to be fair, I don't know if this was this year. I don't know what year this report was. So it looks ugly. It looks ugly if it was in 2024. You would think that it probably was in 2022 or 23. But yeah, but that's what people are reporting on, that they terminate. This was a suspension, not a termination. So, I don't want to misreport anything here because that doesn't serve anyone. That doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit me. So, but yeah, Democrat are not good stewards of nature. That's for sure. Karen Bass, top VP contender for Biden in 2020. Really? She was a top VP contender? That's funny. Is she TAR? I don't know. The mayor of LA was sent to Ghana by the Biden administration to attend some sort of inauguration. She also should have known that something like this was possible. There were red flag warnings and 0% humidity. That's a fair point. She's Todd. Lots of hot takes in chat. Just as you can find a bunch of tracksuits and spill Kool-Aid without a leader like Joe. No fuel, no space laser fires. Okay, brother. Denise says at least she's flying commercial, not a private jet. She didn't look like she cared at all that the city was burning. Fire department DEI hire is just as bad. We're going to get to that soon, too. I think I have stuff on that. Not sure.
Really, if years of leave.
That wasn't what I wanted. We got that one already. This was Trump when he was on Rogan talking about this very issue. Remember when he went on Rogan this summer? Here he is.
We have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why do you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land. Water for your forests. Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that have fallen.
Yeah.
That we have no.
So there you go. He's been pounding this drum. He's been pounding it. This is not Monday morning quarterback. And if you want to talk about the impact, would it really have changed anything? Well, here's Michael Schellenberger on this. As to would it have changed anything if they'd actually followed Trump's plan? Would that have done anything at all?
Climate change is extending the fire season and resulting in higher temperatures. So that is contributing. However, you could have had this amount of warming and not had these fires. And the reason we know that is because the forests that were well managed have survived the megafires. In fact, you have these forests, these well-managed forests, you can see them on a map, that survived the megafires, and megafires burning all around them. These high-intensity fires will go from the badly managed forests with all the wood fuel into the well-managed forest, and then the fire drops into a low-intensity fire. It's a really cool process. It still tends to be a little bit hotter than a normal prescribed fire, but it burns through like a healthy fire would burn. So we know that, this is my objection to this apocalyptic climate rhetoric, we know that a well-managed forest will survive climate change. And they go, well, we're not saying climate change is the only cause of the fires. Obviously, this massive accumulation of wood fuel is a big problem.
Oh.
But they're saying it's a sort of an equivalent factor, but that's just not accurate. You would very much have these high intensity fires that are burning in California if there were no global warming at all. And you could not have the fires even with global warmings. And I think that's important because I think there's a sense in which if you think the only way to stop the fires is by reducing climate change, then you are basically saying you're not going to be able to stop the fires. And that's disempowering and wrong. And
Yep.
we need to solve these
It's
problems.
purposefully
But nonetheless,
disempowering.
nobody likes all the smoke and we shouldn't have to have it. It's just because of the fundamental reason is bad forest management. Climate change.
So there you go. He said that in 2020. He said that in 2020. Bad forest management. Bad forest management. Unbelievable. And we see how dramatic that is. We see how dramatic that is. See, I mentioned James Woods earlier. CNN, of all places, gave him a lengthy opportunity to talk. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here. But here he is on CNN. So they're calling it the Eaton fire, the Hearst fire, the Woodley fire, and the Palisades fire, not the Tamarack fire, the way that was being referred to in that report.
Dr. James Woods, who is in Beverly Hills. Thank you for joining us. Talk to us.
Oh, my
what have
pleasure.
you seen?
Well, we were literally in the exact epicenter of the fire as it started.
By the way, those of you who are saying embers, I'm just going to point this out to you. These things are very far. This is very far. I cannot believe embers. It went first. The first fire was in Palisades. The next one was in Eaton. There's no way. We're talking. I can't even imagine how many miles this is. Now I got to look this up. That's got to be 20 miles. How far is Pacific Palisades to Eaton? 16.8 miles from Pacific Palisades to Eaton. Wait, no, that's not right. That's not right. Damn it. As the crow flies, they're saying it's 27 miles as the crow flies. There. Bring it up here. Maybe not as the crow flies. Maybe it's 27 miles that way. There's no way embers are traveling that far. That's not possible. I don't buy it. So.
One of the people who did evacuate yesterday is Dr. James Woods, who is in Beverly Hills. Thank you for joining us. Talk to us.
Oh, my
what have
pleasure.
you seen?
Well, we were literally in the exact epicenter of the fire as it started. That's actually a view from my porch.
Yep, this
that's
is the
the
video
house
you
one
shot.
below us
Yep.
on fire. Yeah. My neighbor called and he said a fellow named Robert Trinkteller was about 5 houses up. You have to understand the Palisades is almost like an old-fashioned neighborhood. Sidewalks, all the neighbors know each other. We all have each other's phone numbers, and people are very aware that we're in a fire zone. And in fact, I had said day before yesterday, to my wife Sarah, I said, "Oh, that guy on the hillside hasn't cut down his grass. They got to cut down that brush because there's going to be a fire." And that's the person who didn't cut that brush was a person, that fire you're looking at right now. That's my pool right there. That was the brush below us that was not cut. And so we went out. I had a record of the call. In 17 minutes later, we were evacuated with the clothes on our back, Our garage door wouldn't open because the wind was so bright it torqued the door, and we finally got out. When we got to the bottom of the hill, I said, "Oh my God, we have a neighbor who's 94 years old who has dementia." And I said, there were no cars on the driveway, and we would go over and help him get in his chair, sometime if he fell with the caregiver. But I knew he was in the hospital, and I don't know. God was on his side. I decided to call his son in Massachusetts and said, "Hey, Francis, just to be sure, your dad's still in the hospital, right?" He said, "No, he got home last night, and there's a new caregiver, and I don't have the number." And they wouldn't let us back up. So I finally got through to 911 and said, a welfare check, you got to go check on this guy. Well, there was a miscommunication. And I called my neighbor who hadn't evacuated yet. He was on his roof, fighting his fire. He'd been on my roof. He'd hosed my roof down. I said, go in and check on him. He went. He said, the door's open. There's nobody here. He went in and yelled. He said, no, nobody here. I said, look, just go behind the pantry. There's a little room. We can see him during the day. He likes to sit there because there's a garden. He went in and found him. He'd been left alone.
Unbelievable.
Okay. And it turned out the fire department made the new caregiver leave. And, she just does what she was told. They said, we're coming back for him. Well, they hadn't come back for him. I'm hoping that they would have. But, there was so much chaos. It was like an inferno. Every house was on fire around us. And, he got him out, and the house burned down about an hour later. He would have been in there alone. It was just. And then Robert called us and told us that house had gone, and the house below that, and then the house on the other side. And then at 11:49 last night, all the smoke alarms in our house alerted our phones that our house that we had just renovated for 3 years and had just finally moved into about 3 months ago. All the smoke alarms are going off, so that's hardly a good sign. So I'm not sure, but it wouldn't make any difference because the whole street's burned down. So I mean, even if you go back to your home, look,
what are you going back to?
We knew what was coming, and when we were out on our driveway, I looked, and the smoke was so black. It was a house across the street was on fire. The house next door was on fire, and all the black smoke was down there, and the schools are down there. And I said to Sarah, we can't go down there because they're trying to evacuate the schools, and we'll just be in the way. And here's the thing that's so important. People have got to evacuate when they tell you to evacuate, because if you don't evacuate and you think you're going to be out there with your little garden hose, stopping a conflagration with flames 80 feet high in 90-mile-an-hour winds, you're not going to be helping. You're just going to be stopping the firefighters who do such an amazing job. And you've got to be out of the way, man. You've just got to get out of the way and let them do their jobs. And yes, maybe your home's going to burn down, but let me tell you what's more important than your home is your 94-year-old neighbor and your fellow across the street who's trying to help you, and all the friends and family who've been calling all day. And yes, we're safe. And yes, I think everybody on our street survived, although I can't get a hold of Robert. And I called a friend of mine who lived in Malibu, in Mandeville Canyon, and she had called me, are you okay? And I said, yeah, you got to get out of there, Carol. She said, oh, well, we're miles from you. I said, but we're packed. We're ready because people who live in fire zones are ready. You got to be ready to go. And as ready as we were, everything I own is in this room. Every single thing that I own is in this room. We got a basket of laundry, glasses, pills, and the keys to our car, and that's it.
I just can't stop also thinking about your neighbor, and if you hadn't intervened, what would have happened?
I mean, how about Robert, who in the middle, the house was on fire next door. Our deck was on fire, and the guy ran into the house and got it. I was just blessed that God said, hey, call his son and just be sure.
Yeah.
And his son didn't know about it, because then the fire, he's, oh my God, and he's trying to get out here, and there's no flights. And then we couldn't find him because he has dementia. So they put him in a hospital somewhere. And then he called me at 2:00 this morning, said I found him, because I said, go to St. John's, he'll probably be there. And we were able to track when Robert had texted me so that we knew. But by the way, I'm sure the paramedics are coming back for him. It wasn't like they said, "Oh, we're going to just leave this guy here."
Right.
So I want
No,
to make
I'm
that
sure.
clear. It was just a matter of timing.
And it also could be that they said he said he was in a back section of the house. Maybe they thought the house was cleared out and they didn't realize there's a dementia guy there. You just sort of assume that when everything around you is burning and the front door is open, you assume that the house has been evacuated. There's no way you would just jump to a conclusion that let me start searching through every room of a house that's, it's an hour away from burning down. So, yeah, thank God. I thought this was such a heartbreaking story, and it's heartwarming actually, but I found it to be powerful. So I wanted to share it with you. So that was James Woods when he was on CNN. But I want to share with you James Woods when he was starring Laura Ingraham. His tone is a lot angrier. He's a lot angrier here. He's a lot. This is later in the day, I think, when he spoke on the Ingraham angle. I think he spoke on I think that was CNN this morning. But as the day sets in and he starts seeing all this senseless carnage, and here's James Woods later in the day.
If it is true that things were handled this way, if it is true that Gavin Newsom is the absolute blithering idiot that I believe he is in the way he has handled fire management in this state again and again and again and again, this isn't a wake-up call. This is the kind of thing they have tribunals for, where they try people and say, you had an oath of office to perform certain duties. When you're the fire chief, this isn't a social justice exercise that you're in charge of. This is you getting water to areas that need water because there are fires in 100-mile-an-hour winds burning houses to the ground. I watched on a Ring camera a guy have to sit and watch his pet burn to death. Those things are issues of the heart when you watch a cherished little pet. Or, look, my home is a building. It was we worked 3 years putting the home together. We loved our little house, but it means nothing compared to the 5 people who lost their lives.
James,
so the wake-up call.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, we're going to learn a lot more about this.
So there you go. A lot of pressure coming now. People focusing on the DEI hires. The DEI hires. This is Adam Carolla talking about this. Talking about the DEI hires for the fire department, for the LA Fire Department.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps. And I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not Black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it and I was standing in line and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line. And I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago. And she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege. It's
unbelievable. Unbelievable. I share with you Trump's reaction to the fire. This is Gavin Newsom reacting to Trump. We'll come back to the DI thing in a moment, but I didn't want to lose this here. So let me just give you this real quick. This was Gavin Newsom responding to Trump.
We're in the public safety phase.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools, families completely torn asunder, churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play.
Yeah, he did a lot, I'm sure.
Politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
I'm sure Joe Biden did a lot. There's a lot of people who are in safety now because
we're in the.
And while I'm finishing up the Gavin Newsom section of this whole thing here, he did change his tone a little bit later. This was Gavin Newsom. A little bit later in the day when he was addressing the situation.
Hi, my name is Gavin Newsom, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm the useless piece of shit responsible for your home burning down. So just keep giving me your insanely high taxes and keep voting Democrat so I can keep burning this motherfucking place to the ground. Thank you.
There you go. So now we see the two sides of Gavin, the two sides of Gavin Newsom. I was like, I was gonna open the show with that, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to open the show with that. I thought better of it. My producer said don't open with that. But, yeah. Anyway, let me catch up on some chats here, and then we're going to get into more about the DEI hires. My dad was a fireman in California Forest Service 50 years ago, clearing underbrush, controlled fires, etc. was common practice. Fires were rarely bad. Yeah. Because that's what they did. If you take care of it, it's a whole different story. But now the environmentalists say we have to create a fire hazard. It's so stupid. So stupid. This is like when they try, it's like you give them like a wheel, and by the time they're done with it, they're going to make it into an octagon. You're like, look how much better it is. It's better for the environment. A Jewish mother goes to the airport to pick up her daughter. Daughter steps off the plane with an 8-foot-tall Zulu warrior with a bone through his nose. Mother yells, "You fool! I said a rich doctor." Never heard that one before. That was a new one for me. Didn't the fire chief say in the past she wasn't worried about putting out fires, but hiring LGBT? Yeah, that's what I was. We'll come back to that soon. Where suspended firefighter nurses allowed back? No. Oh, is that true? I didn't know that. More Biden incompetence. There's an IV fluid shortage from the hurricane that hit North Carolina. Cross-country hospitals still rationing IV fluids. Not surprised. Not surprised at all. And a minor bit of irony, my hometown volunteer fire department has a smelt feed as a fundraiser. Really? That is pretty ironic. Yo, hit me up at URL. That's funny, Tommy. Thank you, Thomas Burton, for the super chat. I appreciate for the tip. I appreciate that. Fires thrive on DEI. Yeah, they certainly do. Fires start from hot cars. Fires start from hot cars on the leaves. We have 0% humidity. The winds are 80 miles an hour. Red flags. It's not from embers 20 miles away. Yeah, I think you're correct on that. Hey, Joe, I'm a cabinet installer. I assume it's installer. I've done work in some of these homes. It's sad seeing part of my hard work gone forever. I'm sure. It's got to be frustrating. I guess on the upside, now you got more work, right? Right? I mean, I guess that's the upside. Doesn't have to be embers. California does not properly trim trees near power lines, so fires can start virtually anywhere in California with a high wind. Okay. All right. I said there's a lot of ways it can happen organically when the conditions are right. So, yeah. Eric Cummings reporting an hour ago that Mark Gruber is packing to leave. He's near the Sunset Fire, and the fire near him was arson. Really? Wow. Embers, the arson copying the first, very possibly. I don't know. I feel like it's important for me I take my role here far more seriously than you might realize. And to me, it's very important, despite what, idiots on the left might try and claim about me. It's very important that I give you facts as I know them and share with you, where it is that we're dealing with speculation versus fact. Because otherwise I'm just some shrieking TikToker who happens to not be on TikTok. So, speaking of which, if you can like and subscribe here on YouTube or Rumble, wherever you're watching, or X, you can do it on X. You can like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. I see working in these wooded areas that California does not maintain them. Neither do local governments, including electric industry. Yeah. The 90 to 100 mile per hour winds are blowing and carrying burning embers, starting more fires. That's what I'm saying. It can't be that far. They would go 2 miles, 3 miles, not 20 miles. The ember would go out. It just can't go 20. It takes a while to travel 20 miles an hour, even at 100 miles an hour. To go 20 miles, those embers have to be burning for like 7 minutes in the midst of a gusting wind. That's a long haul. You're saying that's how wildfires jump rivers and highways even in less winds. Yeah, okay, fine. A mile, maybe. Not 15 miles. Looks like mostly peaceful protests behind Gavin. Yeah. That's funny. I saw somebody tweeted James Wood that you deserve your house burned down because he voted for Trump. Yeah, these people are gross. The leftists are genuinely, they're dark people. I believe Newsom's 2028 presidential bid is going down in flames this week. You'd like to think so, right? You'd hope so. Hopefully this guy's in jail. I was stuck with Destiny, good or bad. I actually, when I rewatch it, I'm like, I feel frustrated. Like I said, when I talked about this the other day, I feel like he gish galloped me. If I'm familiar with the term, it's like he was just sort of like rapid fire throughout a whole bunch of points that are not really tied into what I'm talking about, and then call me psychotic for disagreeing with him. So there was one moment that I didn't even realize happened because it happened so fast. When I was explaining to him, there's one moment that I do want to clarify for you all, in case you picked up on it. And I only came across it because some people made clips of this particular moment. I've seen clips of me saying this to Destiny, where he said to me, if there was video of Trump assaulting, I can't say it on YouTube, but I don't know how he gets away with it. But if there was assaulting a young child in the most terrible way you can assault them, you still would have voted for him. And I said, yeah, I would. Now I should clarify. I thought it was a stupid point. There's a lot of reasons there's a lot of reasons in the scenario he painted there I would still vote for him. Number one, I wouldn't think it's true because it doesn't make any sense at all that he would do such a thing, and I would be positive that the video was altered. Number two is, I gotta tell you, even if I had reason to think to think that such a thing were true, it's like I'm looking at the country being destroyed. I'm looking at this country literally being destroyed. So you tell me you found some video of him from 20 years ago? I would pray it's not true. I can't imagine it. I think it's so stupid. But the point is that if there was some video of him doing something terrible, would I have voted for him in this election? Between him, Kamala, 1,000 times, every time. And then you'd hope that he gets removed and JD Vance would get in there. But yeah, because assuming he had done something that heinous. But that clip is making its rounds on that 3 seconds where he's like, if there was video of him doing that, you still would have voted for him. I was like, yeah, I would have. I didn't even remember because it was in the middle of like a whole bunch of like different points. I would have. That's true. I think you would have too. I think he still would have gotten I think he still would have gotten 77 million votes. Yeah. Then it would have been less of a vote for him and more of a vote against Kamala. Like in 2016, it was a vote against Hillary. I didn't know how great he would be. So then it was a vote against Hillary. So it would have been a vote against Kamala and Walz to stop them from destroying the country. If in fact such a thing had surfaced. First and foremost, I would think that's complete crap and that someone had altered something to try and make it look like he'd done something. But because I don't put anything beyond the left. But so you give me that scenario? Yeah, I would have still voted. Would you? Would you have said yes to that? If you were asked in front of thousands of people, if there was video, would you have said in front of thousands of people that if a video had come up with him doing that to a child, that you still would have voted for him? Would you have said that's a great question? What do you guys in Rumble say? Would you have said in front of thousands of people? Yes. 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 Let me check chat. I'm curious what you guys are saying now. Devastated. And I don't have a chance to respond as to why I'm saying yes. Here, we'll go through them one by one together. I don't have a chance to explain why I'm saying yes, because he's all of a sudden, the next thing I know, he's talking about how great Obama is or moving on to something else. So it's like and I'm like, so that's why I was just like, everything you're saying here is so authoritarian. When he's talking to me about how he was looking for more control, I'm like, isn't your name is omni-liberal? There's nothing liberal about you. Nothing. This is the least liberal thing I've ever seen. This is just you're so pro-government. Yay. Which is the one person he said he likes on SCOTUS that's not of the three lefties? Amy Coney Barrett, though, the biggest establishment justice out there. Hey, just stop it. Just stop it. Omni-liberal. Yes, very, very liberal. You're not just a liberal, you're omni-liberal. Omni! Adam Carolla talked today about how people may change political views once they try to get permits sent. DM Adam may have lost his house. Oh. An average person can be moved by a 67-mile-per-hour wind. I think getting permits to rebuild is probably is likely an easier thing than to rebuild what you had before than to get something new. So someone whose house burned down is looking at permits to rebuild. Usually those are, at least in my area, which is I live in a blue state, if it's to rebuild what you had that was destroyed by natural disaster, they tend to be a lot easier about that. And especially when they're processing tens of thousands of claims, I would imagine they're going to basically greenlight everyone who wants to rebuild what they had earlier. An average person can be moved by a 67-mile-per-hour wind, and an average car can be moved by a 90-mile-per-hour wind. Yeah, it's crazy. Is it possible for high winds to carry burning debris? I think so. I would cuss profusely destined and brawl in the parking lot. Well, you're all saying you would agree with me. So, where was we? Oh, we're talking about DEI, right? I want to talk to you about DEI. Where is it? So DC, let's share. Let me share a couple of these things here. I just put in DI fires. DC Drainer is saying on the left is LA fire chief allowing her city to be burned down with no water and fire hydrants. On the right is the New Orleans police chief who allowed a terrorist attack on Bourbon without street barriers. DEI is quite literally getting people killed. There you go. Bring back merit. This was the Adam Carolla thing. Here's Megyn Kelly weighing in on it. I want to see if I can find that. This is the clip that everyone is talking about. This is one of a few clips.
Super inspired. She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity. People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I said, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough. Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job. They
Best and brightest for the job. That's what it is.
feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team. The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community. That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, I didn't even know that was an opportunity. That
opens the door. Yeah, everyone, because that's what everyone, the LGBTQ community is just dying to get in there.
For me, I'm super inspired.
We'll come back to Megyn Kelly in a second. Police chief handed out pride flags to attendees. She hails the first female and LGBT chief and says her priority is DEI. There you go. This is her at the Pride Parade. You don't have to hear the music. You can just get a general feel for her at the Pride. She's very good at the Pride thing. Very, very good at the Pride thing. Now, to be fair, I don't think that DEI I don't think DEI, I have no reason to assume now, and a lot of people are talking about the DEI thing. I don't have reason yet, and I want to be clear about this. I do not yet have reason to say that these fires are in any way, shape, or form worsened because of DEI. And this is a reason I wasn't going to make a big deal about it. People started talking about it, so that's why I addressed it. But I have a difficult time.
Crowley is an openly gay woman now.
It took me a couple years. I wasn't sure, and this was when I was new on the job. I was very kind of mindful about my personal life.
Its leadership has since changed.
So there you go. I would not say that because she's DEI. I'm going to hear what Megyn Kelly has to say on this, but I don't see how there's a connection here between the DEI element and these fires raging out of control. As if you have to tell me as to how any human, given the conditions that the fire chief is given, has an opportunity to do anything that would impact or better contain the fires than what we have seen so far. So, but let's hear Megyn Kelly.
Who gives a shit if the fire chief is gay? I'm sorry, but who gives a flying fig about who she likes to sleep with? Can you fight the fucking fires, madam? That's the relevant question. We don't care about your lady parts, and we don't care who you want having access to them. Can you fight fires? Can you make sure there's water in the fire hydrants when you realize in Ventura County, this is a massive problem?
So that's an interesting thing. If she was incompetent about maintaining proper water levels beyond, what she had capacity to do, that's a different issue. That now is saying you sacrifice competence for DEI rather than just assuming that there was a sacrifice there. In other words, when we talk about DEI being a dangerous thing, you sort of have to tie in how this person who you hired because of DEI reasons is lacking in competence. So that's an attack on our competence.
When you realize that California is going through a drought where they haven't had rain in weeks and months, I don't care who turns you on. And you know why they have only 100 women in a squad of 3,300?
They don't want to be firefighters.
Because women tend to be smaller and not as strong. And unless you lower the requirements to become a firefighter, most women can't pass the test. This is an absurdity. This is just like the Secret Service and what happened with Trump. We needed all these women in there who weren't even tall enough to protect the 6'3" president. Under this woman, Ms. Crowley, the department created a diversity, equity, and inclusion bureau to train firefighters not on refilling the hydrants or what to do when they're empty, but on the importance of DEI.
Those are valid criticisms. Those are valid criticisms. I'm going to get more into the criticisms as to different steps that they took. Now that we have a little bit of a grip as to the number of fires and where the fires are located and the damage that it's caused, this is a pretty great synopsis here from Team FU Joe. This is a guy I'd love to get on my channel. And he's actually a little bigger than I am, certainly on TikTok. He's got like a couple million followers on TikTok, but I think I might be able to get him on.
Hey, look, just real quick, for all of you in California dealing with these wildfires, I want you to know that without a doubt, 100%, this is the fault of the Democrats you elected. Because there are 4 actions taken by the Democrats that are directly responsible for why you're enduring this wildfire.
And this is a legitimate criticism of not specifically DEI policy, but Democrat policy, which created this powder keg for everything to blow up. Figuratively and literally.
The first being your state stopped clearing the brush. They didn't want to spend state money anymore on maintaining and clearing the brush that starts these wildfires. And they figured they would save money by not doing it. And then after the wildfire, they would get federal funding to take care of all the emergency stuff. They have just decided that it's cheaper on the state to not prevent them from happening. And after they happen, use federal FEMA funds to take care of it.
So understand this. What he's basically saying is it's a calculated decision by the state government of what's the way that we can actually, deal with this financially best. It's financially best for us to let the place burn and then collect money from the federal government than to spend our own state funds in trying to prevent these fires from happening. Let me say that again. What he's alleging here, and I don't know if it's true, but what he's alleging, and there's reasons to be concerned that there's legitimacy to this claim, is that there's a risk assessment, a financial risk assessment that the state of California is making that, hey, if things burn down, we'll get FEMA funds, and that's federal funds. That's cheaper for us than if we spend our own state funds in maintaining our forests in a way that reduce the damage, because that's an expensive thing. So we don't have to reduce. Why should we take steps to reduce it when we just have this insurance company called the United States of America that's going to give us FEMA funds if and when a disaster comes? So we can spend all sorts of millions of dollars. We can spend millions of dollars every year cleaning up our forests, making sure that we take care of everything. Or we could say, no, we're doing this to be woke and environmental friendly, and that's why we're not cutting down trees, and that's why we're not spending the money on that. And then when everything actually burns to the ground, literally, we'll go get compensated from federal funding of FEMA. Which, if that's the case, that is horrific. There's something terribly wrong with you. I mean, people literally dying because of these democratic policies. That's a very serious charge.
Reason number 2 why you're enduring these wildfires is your mayor in LA decided to cut firefighter funding by $17.5 million.
That's a serious issue too.
Now, it's less than what she wanted to cut. She wanted to cut 23 million. But yeah, she cut 17.5. Oh, and she took that money plus an additional 4 million and spent it on taking care of illegal immigrants.
We got to figure out where we're gonna cover our new expenses of illegal aliens. So I guess we'll cut our fire department.
See, the mayor of LA decided to spend 21.8 million taking care of those people, and she was able to get most of that money from the fire department. Lastly, our government has taken money from fire departments all throughout the United States and spent them fully equipping and fully funding 16 Ukrainian fire departments. Those fire departments have reported to international media that they are fully equipped and ready for any emergency. So if you're wondering why you're dealing with these wildfires, it's because your fucking state stopped clearing the brush. Your mayor in LA cut $17.5 million of your funding and spent all that money on illegal immigrants. And all around the country, we've taken money from fire departments to make sure Ukraine is fully equipped for any emergency. Thank God it's less than 2 weeks till we have to stop dealing with this dumb shit. Except for those of you in California, you reelected the Democrats, so enjoy that.
There you go. Whoa. Pretty serious attack there from Team FU Joe. Let's talk about California State. Now that we're on California State measures. It's bigger. Make it bigger. That's weird. That's what she said. Okay. Let me see if you can see this. I want to make this. Let me open them up a different way. It's not. All right. The $7.5 billion water bond, known as Proposition 1, was passed by California voters in 2014 to fund various water infrastructure projects. Here's the current status based on available information. Project implementation, and we look at the, as of recent updates, progress in the bond-funded projects have been slow. While a significant portion of the bond money has been appropriated, the actual expenditure and project completion rates have been less than expected. For instance, by 2017, only $177 million of the bond had been awarded for spending, despite nearly 80% of the bond being appropriated. This slow rollout is partly due to the need for detailed project evaluation, establishing regulatory frameworks before funds can be dispersed. Water storage. One of the key components of Proposition 1 was funding for water storage projects, with $2.7 billion allocated specifically for this purpose. However, there have been significant delays in the construction of new water storage facilities. As of 2022, no new storage projects had begun construction, highlighting a significant lag in project execution. In summary, while some funds from Proposition 1 have been used for various water projects, the major infrastructure projects, particularly new water storage facilities, have seen little to no completion as of the latest updates. There you go. So they're getting the funding. They're just not bothering doing it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. This is why James Woods was saying that, tribunals for Gavin Newsom. It's an astonishing levels of incompetence. Astonishing. Malone says Hawaii 2.0, same crap. Yeah, Hawaii was terrible. It was terrible too. We saw that in the summer. Johnny Reb says, Joe, here's an example of a Pacific Palisades trail. Look at that fuel. There's a picture he showed. Over with my diggers. Yeah. That's going to burn. It says, Joe, location of Guam. What? It's too small. Location of Guam and the Marianas, Samoa and American Samoa, about halfway between Guam and Australia. Okay. I think he's watching yesterday's show. I'm not sure though. Not sure. This was the wildfire he shared. Sorry, I thought I shared the screen. It's the Pacific Palisades Trail. I don't know what to do with this. This is very small. I don't know. I can't even enlarge it like this. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that. What do you want me to do with that? Can't see nothing. There's a video of Biden doing something similar to a young girl on live TV, and Destiny voted Biden. Shouldn't talk. Like a dummy, Newscomb is blaming Trump for his state going up in flames. Yep, I'm stealing this from someone off X, but they're really happy the fire department could finally put together a softball team. This just in: Trump's demands Newscomb to resign for how badly he's handling the fires. Is that really true? Let me check True Social now. Oh, there you go. It was an hour ago. One of the best and most beautiful parts of the United States of America is burning to the ground. It's ashes, and Gavin Newsom should resign. This is all his fault. The next to the ocean, use salt water. If you can't get water, level the buildings. Think, act, lead. Don't throw your hands in the air. That's what I was wondering also. Like, it's not like there's a shortage of, like, salt water. Can they really not do anything? Anything to get water there? They're next to the freaking ocean. I mean, it's the Pacific Palisades. It's right on the ocean. It's not even that many miles. You would think. Like, oh, you're driving along the Pacific on one side and houses on fire on the other side. It's like, where can we find water? Where can we find water? I don't understand that. I was going to ask that question, but I was like that. I think people are going to think I'm stupid for wondering why they can't use salt water here. Maybe one of you can walk me through it. Why can't you? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can't use salt water. I would think you don't see too many fires. Unless there's an oil spill, you don't see too many fires in the ocean. It's not an everyday occurrence. You would think that it should work. FEMA isn't just used for California. It is an local one. I don't know what that means. The blue line of fire hydrants ended up empty because the power that runs the pump for that line went out and did not have the backup power system. So you're saying it's an electrical problem. That seems like it's a very short-sighted perspective to not realize you might have electricity issues during massive wildfires. You would think that would be something you would plan for. You would think. I'm just saying, you would think. Have generators. You would think. No. California federal money resilience scheme is decades-old news. Oh, California federal money reliance scheme. Sorry, reliance scheme is decade-old news. Well, it's news. It's news around here. We see the end of evil people's actions, but to actually hear the sorbitol details of how they engineer tragedy against us makes my jaw drop. I hate that the world literally has to burn for people to see what's up. It is sad. It is pathetic. It's pathetic. My heart goes out to those who are personally affected. Nobody else's opinion matters at this point. I started this show, and I'll tell you right now, this show has been a far more somber show than my regular shows because I wholly agree with you here. I wholly agree with you. The winds last night were hurricane, no flights. Damages ground and equipment. I'm sure you've heard of salt in the earth. That would seem to make sense also. That would seem to make sense. Ramble on, gifting a subscription. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. But I'm curious about the whole DEI angle. You have to really attack her competence. So she did a decent job of sharing, of attacking her competence. This is what we have so far, though. This is what we have so far on the California fires map.
What's signing winter?
Really? Okay. Three larger wildfires burning across Los Angeles County, including Palisades, Eaton, and Hearst fires. Evacuation orders and warnings have been issued for all residents living around all three fires. Blah, blah, blah. They're calling this the Sunset Fire here now. I don't know. I thought that was the Woodland Fire. Each of these fires and their corresponding impact areas have been issued evacuation orders and warnings. This is what I wanted to show you, is the different maps that they have here. So they break down, this is the Palisades fire map. I assume the orange part is the part that's actually inflamed. The red part, I think, is where they're evacuating people. Where there's a mandatory evacuation. Fire was first reported around 10:30 a.m. near Piedra Morada yesterday. So far, 15,832 acres have burned. 30,000 people are under mandatory evacuation orders. People in the area of Palisades were urged to evacuate immediately. Santa Monica residents living between the northern border of the city and San Vicente Boulevard and between Ocean Boulevard and 26th Street are also being told to evacuate. According to LAPD Chief Jim McDonald, over 10,000 households are evacuating. Another 15,000 buildings, including businesses, were also evacuated. Additional evacuation orders are underway for parts of LA County, including the area between Merrimack Road and Topanga. Let's check out their detailed map here. This was last updated 9:23 p.m. Pacific time, which is like a half hour ago. So that's the first fire. Yellow is, so this is the evacuation warning. This is mandatory evacuation. This is where there's fire. That's Palisades. Oh, gosh. Then we have the Eaton fire map. Eaton was reported just after 6:15 p.m. on Tuesday. 5 people died and a significant number of people were injured. Chief Marone also said the department had reached capacity and he's requested additional aid from Orange, LA, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties, as well as resources from out of state in Northern California. Those are their evacuations. Let's check out the map. So here's where the fire is. What do they label what this is? That's just evacuation warnings over here. So this is mandatory evacuation. I assume here you have your recommended evacuation, the yellow areas here. That's in Eaton. And obviously, if you live in the area here, you should be heeding all warnings. I urge you to heed all warnings. Then you have the Sunset Fire, which seems smaller. So far only burned 20 acres. The Sunset Fire, I guess this is just the whole map here. That's just north of West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. And then you have the Hearst Fire map, north of Palisades Park. 850 acres. That was first reported around 10:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Progress was made, however, on Wednesday evening as California reported 10% of the fire had been contained. This is like the big win. 10% contained. 90% out of control. 10% contained. Wow. Evacuation orders and warnings. The governor's office estimated that more than 44,000 people in the area were under evacuation. Then you have Lydia fire. I don't know what that is. That's a new one. This is crazy. This is crazy. I thought there were 4. I thought there was Hearst, Sunset, Eaton, and Palisades. Now we have Lydia fire. It's burned 348 acres. And that was first reported around 2:12 p.m. Wednesday, 5 o'clock my time. Significantly smaller than the other 3 larger fires burning across LA County has prompted evacuation warnings and orders across a large swath of zones. There you go. Wow. Thank you, Corn Pop. Been a while since I've seen you. It's not lost to me that they let this happen just days before Trump takes office officially. I personally don't put much stock in the timing of it. I don't think the timing. That's to put stock in the timing of it. First and foremost, you would think they would do it after he takes office. I would think they would do it a couple days after he takes office. Give him a crisis to deal with. The other thing is, I have a hard time understanding how why there's a motivation for them to burn down forests in California in the 2-week period leading up to his coming in. Maybe you have something in mind that I haven't thought of. But I can't think of why that would be. Why do you think that is? You don't have to super chat. I'm reading the chat, try and see what you got. You stream a local news channel, it's getting worse. So I had one.
Lit up. Look at all the fire apparatus there. I know it's probably hard to distinguish between what are embers here, what are hotspots, and what are lights from homes. So I'm going to zoom in on where the hotspots still are, what's still burning here. It's these orange patches within the dry brush. So look at this. There are firefighters surrounding this area trying to get this under control. You can see, though, if you take a look at the trees, you can see the difference in movement between what we're showing you now in Studio City versus what we showed you earlier this evening in the Palisades, where winds were still whipping. We do not have that here. So that may end up just being the saving grace here.
You know, earlier, Julia, we asked you about the proximity to Laurel Canyon. Now that we know it's closer, we believe, according to Dr. Ron, to Coldwater Canyon. Can you give us a quick shot of that?
I can. So Laurel Canyon is going to be just to the east of here, and we are northwest of Fryman Canyon. We've been calling this whole region the Canyon. This is northwest of Fryman Canyon proper. So I'm going to show you this whole area, this busy, tightly packed residential area now lit up with these emergency vehicles. We haven't seen a lot of people trying to get out, so it looks to me like residents may have evacuated before we even got on scene. But that evacuation alert, that warning did come through on everyone's cell phones earlier, letting them know about a potential evacuation order. The mandatory order has not come down just yet. And if firefighters here can get this under control, we may not see forced evacuations.
What is that dark area that we're seeing from the chopper there? Is that an area where power is out, or more of a brushy area? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Not sure what a brushy area is. Maybe she's trying to interpret that too.
All right, so we appear to have lost Julia's audio here at this point, but again, the firefight continues here on Sunswept and Veneta, and you asked the question, is that that sort of dark spot in her
I'm
shot?
kind of curious about that.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder whether that is something that is related to a power outage, or is that just a patch of, brush that perhaps is empty. Yeah, and a piece of property that's empty and again, just sits there in darkness.
You know what is amazing as we look at these pictures? We're looking at that picture, dead center in the screen there is a hot spot. And you've got to wonder, it looks like it's a curb. There's a lot of water around there. What in the world could be on fire there? And while the firefighters seem to be getting the upper hand on this house fire or two-house fire, there are hotspots like this all over the area.
And these are the things that folks got to worry about. But, as Melissa said, the saving grace, at least for firefighters here today, is this hotspot is close to the actual ignition point, as opposed to traveling 2 to 3, 4, or 5 miles away, as we've seen yesterday.
That is just amazing as I look at it. It's the corner of a curb there. Maybe it's a small brush, but again, with all the water that's being thrown on these two places, you would think that everything would be so saturated, it wouldn't ignite.
I liken it to a game of whack-a-mole here with fire officials here.
I think that's a very good description.
This pops up.
Julia, where's the focus on this right now?
Hey, Colleen, we're back with you now. Lost IFB in my headset for a moment there, but look at what's burning here. I'm not sure what that is. It's probably dry brush, even though most of this area, most of that front yard is now saturated with water. I think the focus of this firefight is still going to be to the east, to the right of this first structure. You see where they're shining that flashlight? They're probably trying to figure out and strategize how they can...
Let me see if I can find another report which isn't focusing on see if it's got like a broader focus.
South of the Sunset fire when we got dispatched here, and Sunset, hardly any traffic there, so they are able to move around the city pretty quick.
That's a relief, Kevin, because we were seeing absolute gridlock earlier. But again, Kevin, you may have saw some of the press conferences taking place today where the LA fire officials and the police department and the county sheriff's department saying, if you don't have a reason to be on the streets, stay inside, stay where you are, because they need these streets to be clear. So what a relief to hear you say that you did not see a lot of traffic, being that we know that traffic is a problem in Los Angeles.
And kind of a testament to the fact, you talked about how it was easy for these big, heavy trucks to get up the street. We've got those red flag parking restrictions, and that is key. Without those, the street would be clogged with cars, and we'd have big problems getting those vehicles onto this into this area. So now, of course, they're able to do it. It can be kind of a nuisance for people who live in the area if they've got a hard time parking on these days, but it really pays off. It pays dividends, and you can ask those people in that neighborhood right now.
Hopefully that doesn't become
very happy to see them.
Hopefully the Studio City thing doesn't become a new fire. Let's see if there's anything else. Let me see if that's it.
In Altadena and Pasadena, at least 5 people have died. More homes are burning tonight. LA Fire just confirming as many as 1,000 structures damaged or destroyed in this fire. We're closing in on 11,000 acres charred. But we want to get back to our Studio City fire here that we've been monitoring, what started as what looked like a house fire, right? A 4-story home there.
That's right.
And now you can see some of that hillside also charred there.
The good news is most of the fire is out, Leslie. Our Mike Rogers told us this fire appears to have started within the home. So not a fire that started without, outside the home. That may have been an ember cast or an ember that started this fire there.
Insurance companies canceled a lot of policies a few weeks ago. Oh, so that's what you meant with respect to the timing? I did see I saw that there was one. I think it was in that report that I cut a little bit short there, where James Woods mentions that there's a massive insurance company that cut their fire insurance like 3 or 4 months ago and said, we're not covering you guys anymore. So hopefully they all had a chance to switch over to other insurance companies. General says gridlock in Palisades had first responders telling people to exit vehicle and run for their lives towards the ocean. Horrific. Some psycho illegal started this. I don't know. I don't know if it was started by a psycho or not. That is horrifying. That is terrible. Terrible. All right. I had a couple of funny things that I was thinking about sharing with you all, but it just feels like the wrong stream for it. I think it's the wrong stream. My gut's telling me this is the wrong stream for it. So, in lieu of that, Anna, my family's currently under evacuation where my gut says people are doing this deliberately. Maybe not the first fire, but taking advantage of the situation. There's different things. Like I said, I sort of have a similar type of gut thing, but I would never say, I'm not saying that that's reality. You know what I'm saying? There's one thing to say, like, you have a bad gut feeling about something. It's a different thing to say, I'm not the kind of podcast who's going to come out here and be like, this is definitely, some lunatic lefties who are starting these fires or some crazy kids. I don't even like offering the speculation, just because by offering the speculation, it comes across as if I'm adopting the position, and I don't want to be adopting the position. So I'll just leave it as I feel you. I feel you, and you're definitely not alone. You're definitely not alone in that. Elephant. I mean, besides desalinating the ocean water, they could also cloud seed to make it rain. Cloud seed to make it rain? Instead, Newsom is going, re-Trump. You could cloud. See, I don't know how that works. Cloud seeding to make it rain. Come on, will they ionize the clouds? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to start speculating on stuff like that because that's beyond my pay grade as far as cloud seeding. I don't feel like I know enough about cloud seeding to weigh in on that, but I'll defer to your judgment on that. So you flood, no fire. WTF? Would you have insurance? So you flood, no fire. WTF? Would you have insurance? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Duckfat says, for an extra cheesy A1 good time, go to Real Patriots Party channel and give him a thumbs up. 24-hour live stream. Also, Dom Mannion, mispronounced Mannion. I do always say Mannion. It is Dom Mannion. Mannion T. Mannion T1. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I'm still going to call Mannion. Loves your show, Joe. Big fan. Big fan. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Let me see if I can find Real Patriot Party. You didn't link me, Duckfat. I'm going on over there. All right. Well, there you go. If you're over on Rumble.
Where did that lot come from?
They boarded at Gibraltar. They're on the way to Sicily.
He's watching.
Your free
It's
trip
Wednesday
for free
Cheese Whiz.
music. You're going to a jazz festival.
So there you go. This looks like the sort of thing that gets me copyright hit, though. So, all right. Shout out to Real Patriots Party. I think I'm going to land my plane here. I think it's time. It's time for me to start landing my plane. We respect your thoughts and opinions more than what the news reports. I appreciate that. And I know people, I was like, am I going to spend 2 hours talking about the fires? But I was like, yeah, I guess so. It's actually dominant one. Remember, Solus Ginger, remember for 16 months, Dom Mannion. I like Dom Mannion better. Okay. Why have insurance doesn't cover the things we worry about? No, it does cover it. It's just they canceled all insurance premiums. And they said, we're not taking it like 4 months ago. Okay. You tell me. You tell me. You tell. What does this say? What does this word here say? Does that say dominant? Dominant. Why would you have two M's? Dominant. I'm sticking with Dom Mannion. I'm sticking with Dom Mannion. There's nothing better than Dom Mannion. I said I love you already. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. What we got? Let me check this out. Did we hit our goal? Oh, I never made a goal. Oh, all right. Well, no goal for me. All right. I think it's time for me to start landing. Fallout TV show S2 disrupted by fires. I'm still confused why you ever gave up that whole ancient doctor with the beak thing that you used to have for your picture there, Ben. Why? What happened? It was so perfect. It's much better. It's much better. I don't know. I'm just saying. Much better. All right. Season 2. Joe Reed Chat. Season 2. Fallout TV show. Season 2. Disrupted by fires. Tragedy. Season 2. That's what everyone in chat's telling me. They're also saying, just read chat, Joe. Read chat. All right. Did I get? Shut up. I think I got everything I need to get. I think I got to everything that I need to get to. You guys are too harsh. Lamb meat. They, them, not for you. Stay away from forest fires. If you live near a forest, I don't know, maybe spend 10 minutes cleaning it tonight. Let that be a lesson to you. It's really for the state to do. It's not for you. It's not for you to do. Don't try cleaning your own forest. No. But all jokes aside, especially if you're in California, please, if you get any sort of notifications, don't brush it off. You should have especially in Southern California, you should have a bag ready to go. You never know where the next brush fire, God forbid, may strike. And I'm urging you, I definitely don't want to see any of you get harmed, caught up in some wildfire which just explodes out of nowhere and becomes the next thing that they're trying to figure out how to name, that is the hiccups that I'm fighting there. So don't eat the bugs. Have a good night. And as always, Godspeed.